Sure.
Cybersecurity is such an important factor for businesses. We hear on the news of breaches, passwords being exposed,
Right.
ransomware. Dan, how does
Mhm.
proper onboarding benefit a client in regard to their security?
This is a good question, and I can give you some examples that I've actually seen of the opposite, right? So when we go through this onboarding process, the way it works is we're going to come in and we're going to um, understand the environment first of all. Our technicians are going to come in and they're going to understand what's the networking layer, what's the server layer, what's the cloud layer, what's the application layer in a general sense. And then in addition to that, in addition to understanding it and sort of mapping it out and documenting it, we get in and we understand sort of the core basic settings inside of those systems. For example, if you're using a cloud mail and collaboration platform like Office 365, like Microsoft 365, if you're using that, we're going to get in there and we're going to look at the very basic settings of that platform to understand if it's secure. We do the same thing for servers. We do the same things for virtual infrastructures, for backups, for networks. We want to understand the core setup of those systems. And then once we look at it, if we determine that there's very notable security flaws, we're going to note those, and some of those things are going to be remediated in our onboarding process. Now, not everything. It's a very complex security issue that requires some type of pro services team involvement and a statement of work and an actual project. That's a little bit different. We're going to attend to that as a future item, and we're going to bring it to your attention. But there's plenty of things that we can see within an environment that we need to raise our hand and say, new client, we want to show you something. This is an issue. We'd like to remediate it right away. Is that okay? And we do knock those things out through the actual onboarding process, which again, that's one of these reasons that we charge for an onboarding. I'll give you a very quick story of the opposite happening. So we take over new clients, and when we take over new clients, occasionally they've worked with an MSP before, right? Pretty common stuff. So every once in a while, we'll get in and we'll take over a new client, and we'll look in their existing systems. These systems have been in place for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. We'll look in there, and they basically have the out of the box settings of these systems. And I'll use the Office 365, Microsoft 365 solution for a second. We'll go in and we'll start working with a new client that has had Office 365, like the mail component or the SharePoint component, rolled out for years. And when we get in and look at the settings are literally the default settings that are in place from when the product is basically turned on. That may seem reasonable, but it's not, because there's a lot of security that should be enabled and turned on within those products that the client absolutely should have. But that wasn't done for whatever reason, by the former team or the former person and whatnot. So, tying it back into theme for today, there's all this effort and brain power and architectural review of the systems that come before we even start support, and that's the real value that we bring, and why it's a notably complex process that is not just we're putting agents on and we're starting and you don't have to pay for it.